All right, well, it's a race against time then for political parties as they try to meet the deadline to form South Africa's new local councils. The pressure is on the 70 hung municipalities in which no single political party was able to get a majority in last week's local government elections. For more, let's have this discussion. We're now joined by political analyst Dr Ntsikelelo Breakfast. As always, Dr. Breakfast, a pleasure to see you. Thank you so very much for joining us on SABC News.
Thank you very much for having me, Flo.
Just as a start, I mean, Dr. Breakfast, I'm quite keen to hear your opinion really on the EFF's proposal when it comes to the coalition negotiations. They haven't, in fact, been invited to the coalition talks that we're currently talking about that are taking place in Sandton. But the EFF leader, Julius Malema, made the suggestion that Action SA take Joburg, ANC take Ekurhuleni, and EFF takes Tshwane. Almost like the divisions that were happening during the times of colonialism on the African continent. You take that country, you take that one. I mean, what do you make of this?
Well, I think, Flo, it's quite clear in my opinion that the ANC's hegemony in the political landscape has been done away with, and that coalition formations are a thing of the future. But I think the idea of entering into coalition formations with the sole purpose of keeping the ANC out of power is a wrong idea. Because it begs the question about what is the program that political parties have when they form these power sharing arrangements for service delivery. Because it seems as if the main objective is just to keep the ANC out of power. In as much as I do acknowledge that the ANC has dropped the ball in terms of failing to render services to the inhabitants. With regard to the EFF, I think what we see here is that these power sharing negotiations, they epitomize, I don't know, opportunism, musical chairs, because it seems as if now the EFF is trying to showcase its power, that these power sharing arrangements cannot be constituted without them. And now they want to run maybe one or two municipalities.
I'm looking at the political parties that are currently meeting in Sandton. You've got the GA, IFP, UDM, Action SA, Freedom Front Plus, COPE, ACDP, and Patriotic Alliance. And, all essentially have different ideologies. And I wonder, what's the likelihood of, whatever arrangements that they come with backfiring? I mean, we've obviously seen instances where coalitions have not worked, and when you're talking about such huge groups of political parties, I wonder how much more so that would possibly be the case, because now we're not necessarily talking about service delivery, as you mentioned. We're now talking, the main aim being to take out the ANC, and I just wonder, what are the possible consequences of that?
Yeah, I don't think that the issue of ideological proximity is of paramount importance when political parties are entering into these power-sharing arrangements. I think what comes to the minds of many political parties is power, at all costs. So we need to distinguish between a friendship and a strategic alliance. So a power-sharing arrangement is basically a marriage of inconvenience. You are joining forces with someone who might have a different ideology from yours, and you need to make some compromises. But I think in order for these coalition formations to take off the ground nicely and to fly, there has to be an independent body that is going to hold them accountable and enforce those agreements that they have agreed upon. Otherwise, they will fall apart.
Yeah, we've obviously, just going back to the issue of the EFF and they're not invited to these talks, as well as the ANC. We'd heard that coalition negotiations between the EFF and ANC had in fact deadlocked at some point, and that Action SA basically said, listen, we're not going to talk to EFF at all. And it seems to put EFF, I don't know, but perhaps you can analyze this for me. Does this put the EFF on the back foot? I mean, that we've generally been seeing them in the past as the king makers, and I wonder if that position could be taken away from the EFF if these parties are simply saying, listen, we don't really want to talk to you.
The issue is that we need to come to terms with the fact that coalition formations are the order of the day. If Action SA doesn't want to talk to this party or that party, and then the deadline goes past, I can bet my bottom dollar flow, if we have a rerun, the picture will not change.
Yeah.
The issue is that the political environment at the moment is fragmented, and that leads to lack of, majoritarianism. So even if you can have a rerun, the situation is not going to change. So I'm saying that these political parties, they need to put their differences aside and come together and sit at the table and chant a way forward. They need each other.
You say that the goal ultimately is power, and I think it's so interesting. Just going back to my first question, the EFF proposing that a party like Action SA take over Johannesburg, and one would have thought that's exactly what they would have wanted. One would have thought that Herman Mashaba would want that position that he previously held in Johannesburg. What do you make of him saying, no, actually, that's not what I want? What does Action SA want? What do they want out of this? I mean, if it's not that sort of power, what are we looking at? I mean, it's kind of strange now to kind of see where Action SA wants to be or sees itself.
Look, Flo, my view is that all political parties, they exist because they want power. Otherwise, they would not have been established in the first place. Yeah. Otherwise, maybe they would have become, NGOs or something. The mere fact that you participate in electoral politics is because you want to have access to state power, full stop. But now there is a strategy now. I think Herman Mashaba thinks that, rightfully so, he is popular amongst the urban dwellers in certain sections of the population because of the good job that he has done in the past in terms of his responsiveness to issues of service delivery, and then he doesn't want to come across to be joining forces with a party like the ANC that doesn't have a good track record of service delivery. But in their analysis, they are omitting the fact that they are not an outright winner. That's the fact of the matter. And that's why I'm saying that all these political parties flow because of the way things are at the moment. They need each other.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all kind of looking to 2024 elections. This is all, I suppose, a precursor of what we're likely to see. And I wonder, after seeing what we've seen now with the local government elections and the results, what do you think this will ultimately mean for the ANC? I suppose they would be looking at these results to kind of have an idea or picture of what would happen at those national elections, and it might be quite a scary picture if the number of people also stay away from elections, especially for the ANC. I mean, what do you see happening in 2024? The ANC has promised to change and make things better, like a lover that you've kind of broken up with and now trying to get his way back. How do you see this all playing out?
My view, Flo, is that the legacy of liberation struggle, it tends to be deeply embedded in collective memory, in particular amongst the older generation, which is basically found in the rural sections of the population. So those are the people who normally vote for the ANC. But now the issue is that the population of this country on the whole is constituted by the majority of young people. who cannot be manipulated, by historical factors, or by romanticizing about the past, or by the preservation of history. You can't manipulate young people like that. So I'm arguing that the ANC at the moment is on the back foot, and I think that for the first time, if they don't pull up their socks, they are going to fall short for the first time of getting 50%.
Yeah.
I doubt very much if they will bounce back.
All right, Dr. Ntsikelelo Breakfast, always a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you very much for joining us, as always, here on SABC News, sir. All right, that is political analyst Dr. Ntsikelelo Breakfast. They're talking to us about the coalition talks that are currently underway, and we'll certainly give you the latest as and when we receive it. Our senior reporter Yolisa Njamela is, of course, on that story, and she'll give us the latest as soon as we can get it.